Hello dear students, welcome to the third part of our 5-part series of top 20 species for Prelims 2025. The next species that we are going to discuss is your leopard. And leopard has been in news in different contexts, but let's try to understand what all are the important ones. First of all, leopards are actually the smallest of all the big cats. Okay, it's the smallest of all the big cats. So you have the clouded leopard, you have the tiger, you have the lion, but out of all of this, the leopard, the normal Indian leopard, is the smallest. It's a nocturnal species. Okay, and if you look at the numbers of leopards in our country, you have Madhya Pradesh having the highest, followed by Maharashtra and followed by Karnataka. This is the number of leopards, based on the number of leopards in our country. Now, there are two major current affairs that are featured when it comes to leopard. First thing is, India's largest leopard safari has been inaugurated at the Bannerghatta Biological Park in Karnataka. So that was a news. Okay, so understand this is the leopard safari that has now been introduced, and it's India's largest leopard safari. That's the first thing. Second thing is, in a lot of parts in India, they have been having the sightings of black panther. Okay, so students normally get very confused with this. Black panther is actually a melanistic leopard. Melanistic leopard means a leopard that has undergone a genetic mutation, and now it has, instead of having yellow and black in intermittent, what has happened is the black is what is prominently there. Okay, so to just recollect, if you have a tiger, the genetic mutation of it leads to a black tiger or a white tiger. When it's a leopard, the genetic mutation of it leads to a black panther. Okay, so this is something quite prominent. Now, it's a small tip for you to remember this. Another important factor as to why leopard and leopard counting is important is, see, in India, we do count all of these big cats. There is tiger counting happening. There is leopard counting happening. Now, when it comes to your tiger counting, over the time, there have been a lot of new technology coming in, primarily because it's quite difficult to identify tigers just based on the pug mark. Okay, but when it comes to leopard counting, there is a major difference between tiger and leopard counting. The fact is, when it comes to leopard counting, the environmental scientists rely only on your pug marks. Only on your pug marks. Okay. Now, small challenge for you. I want you to go and find out why in leopard counting only the pug marks are what is used. This is a very important difference, and I'll give you a clue also. It's primarily to do with the size difference between male and female leopards. Okay, so just go find out why in your leopard counting only you can actually completely rely on the pug mark based counting. So if you find the answer, I want you to comment it down in the comments so that I get to see your answers and feel very proud about the fact that you went and you found out what I intended you to go and search. Okay, so now with that, let's move on to the next species that we have to discuss. It's the Khur. Okay, this might not be very familiar to you, but then when I tell you it's the Indian wild ass, then it becomes quite familiar to you. So, Indian wild ass, otherwise also called as Khur. Okay, now one of the first reasons it becomes important is because it is now under your IUCN endangered category. Okay, so this is a wild donkey species that primarily is based on grass as its food. Okay, they move in forms of groups. Now, for example, when you have large groups, you see that the groups are mainly composed of females, okay, and the baby ones, the young ones of it, and the male wild as is actually loners. They just move in individual numbers that is there. Previously, when it comes to your Indian wild ass, it was located in large areas of Pakistan, Afghanistan, southeastern Iran, etc. Right now, it's located only in India. Okay, it's not so you have to understand its numbers have reduced drastically over the period of time, so much so that now it's located only in India. Okay, and this is the next species that deserves your attention for Prelims 2025. Moving forward, the next species that we have to discuss in our top 20 is pygmy hogs. Pygmy hogs again are in news because, first of all, it's the smallest wild pig species. Look at it. It's so tiny. It's extremely small. If you look at the different categories of it, IUCN considers this as endangered. CITES considers this as in the Appendix 1, and Wildlife Protection Act puts it under Schedule 1. One important point to be noted, pygmy hog was for a really long time critically endangered. Very recently only the status improvement has happened into the endangered category. So in some sources you might see that variation. Okay, you might see them writing it at CR. So understand that's just that updation issue. Right now it is in the endangered category. Why is pygmy hog important? First of all, pygmy hog, as I told you, is the smallest wild pig species. Okay, it is right now, if I'm saying it is endangered and everything, in India, it's located only in one particular wildlife sanctuary, and that is your Manas Wildlife Sanctuary. Only in this area you do see the presence of pygmy hog. Pygmy hog also is an omnivore. That means it can eat small insects and your grass species. Okay. The very curious fact about pygmy hog is it's one of those very few mammals. See, we build homes, right? We build a proper home with a roof and everything. Now, pygmy hog is one of those very few mammals that build its own home, nest-like thing. Complete. It does even have a roof. It's like a complete small home that it builds. It's one of the very few mammals that does it. So look at it. Smallest wild pig species, builds its own home with proper roof and everything. Then you have it located only in Manas Wildlife Sanctuary. It's an omnivore and it's an indicator species. Wherever pygmy hog is there, it is an indicative feature of the health of the grasslands in that area. Okay. So that brings us to the next species that we have to discuss, and this is your Indian wolf. Okay, so the Indian wolf is actually, it falls under the category of IUCN endangered. Okay, it is primarily seen in semi-arid and arid areas. Okay, and you have one species which is called as the Indian wolf, and then you have something called as the Himalayan wolf. The Indian wolf is so widely located, it's seen in different arid, semi-arid areas. The Himalayan wolf is located only in high altitudes, and it is having the Himalayan wolf has a much thicker fur-like thing. The Indian wolf, in comparison, it does not have a thick winter coat or anything, primarily because it lives in warmer conditions. The Indian wolves are also carnivores, and it primarily feeds on deers, rodents, hares, raccoons, etc. Further, Indian wolves are monogamous and they mate for life. So, they do not have multiple mates. The Wildlife Protection Act of India places it under Schedule 1. So with that, we come to the end of the third part of our 5-part series on the top 20 species that are important for Prelims 2025. Stay tuned for the part 4.